today we have an interesting topic today, which it kind of gave me a little bit of pause, but I think it's a topic we should all talk about, which is um, multipliers, right? How do you start going from personal growth to collective elevation? So we've talked about we've talked a ton about personal growth and leadership and growing, but what does it mean now to for that to spread, right? So, okay, so welcome to Monday Momentum, 20 minutes reset, where it just helps you start your week focus, clarity, confidence, and continuous energy and growth. Like I said, I think the topic is interesting, but somewhat powerful. And it's about leadership. It's about legacy, which we talked about last week, but it's now taking it from growth to impact. So what does the next level look like? And this is a truth that a lot of us don't think about, right? You weren't meant to just grow for yourself. And that's amazing as you're doing that. But you were meant to grow so that others could see you, could rise with you, right? So it's not just you, but then it's the impact that you're making and it's the ripple effect that you're touching. And that is truly a winner's mentality. That's how winners think, because it's no longer just about them, but it's about the community. It's about the people that they can impact. And growth is not, this is something I want you to think about. And maybe as the week goes on, as you're growing and as you're thinking about how to impact people, I want you to think about this. Like, growth isn't complete until it becomes somewhat contagious. So someone else sees what you're doing, how you're growing, how you're thinking, how you're building, and wants to emulate that, copy that, some part of it, right? That's what it looks like. So as much as I think the topic is interesting, I think it's very needed. So today, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about what it means to be a multiplier. What does that word even mean? And then there has to be a shift from self-focus to community. And I think that's the big part that we need to harp on. And then what are practical ways that you can start doing this? Okay, so let's get into it. As always, right, if you have questions, toss it in the chat, toss it in the comments, and I'll keep my eye on that a little bit, and then we could take it from there. So there's a powerful distinction that people maybe forget or don't think about, but a lot of people who want to grow, they focus on how to better themselves. And to some degree, that's wonderful, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, you start consuming, you improve, and you evolve. And as you do that, right, the next step is, how can I then become a multiplier? And multipliers focus on becoming better, right? And so when they become better, others will rise too. And there's a subtle difference, right? They start to turn their insights into influence. And then they start moving from self-help, like I said, to community impact. And you know those people in your life, right? Or you've seen them, and you've seen it as such a beautiful quality, right? They find ways to give value. So there are those people who maybe you see them at a networking event and they'll be like, hey, I want to connect you with this person. I want to help you grow. This is what I'm doing. They're always sharing knowledge, always sharing information. And that's the sign of growth, right? They're going from growing to them becoming a multiplier, because it's a ripple effect. What they know is being passed on to someone else. And you might be thinking, right, how will I do it, right? I don't even know that much. How can I even start thinking about multiplying? One of my mentors told me, right, and I think I've shared this with my team, and it's, to be an expert, right, you just need to be better than one person. So why doesn't that person become your multiplier, right? Why doesn't that person become the person that you can focus on and push that knowledge to? So that's just something to think about, right? Again, growers will elevate their life, but then multipliers will think about elevating everyone around them. And this is something that I am working on. And so when we pick topics that we talk about, right, it's something, sometimes it's a little personal, but it's something that I'm really currently working on, is I'm all about growth, and we're all about growth at Phoenix, but then how can you take it to the next level, which is impacting your friends, your family, your team, and the community at large. So my question for you, my first question today is, how can you turn this personal growth into collective elevation? But starting today, starting this week, what does that look like? And I get excited. The more you do this, right, the more your knowledge will crystallize, because you're able to teach someone, you'll be able to impact someone, you're able to lead, and that's really how you grow. So as you think about how can you do this week, right, I want to help you come up with easy, simple things that you can do. And the first one is, as you master, right? And nothing here we're talking about today is rocket science, but as you master, right, then you can start sharing. So, if you've been reading, if you've been listening, if you've been learning, if you've just been acquiring a ton of knowledge, what does it look like to share that? What does it look like to pass that on to someone else? And then also you can start thinking about how to turn that knowledge into service. We talked a few, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, but like when you even start thinking about, and this is leadership, but when you start try to figure out like how can I grow a business, it's all about really turning what you know into service. So this applies. So if you start with giving value, if you start with figuring out how you can multiply, then that can easily be a business, a service, because you're impacting someone else. So that's something you should think about. And if you're thinking, well, what does it look like to go from mastery to start sharing? I want you to ask these questions, right? They'll help you. Write it down, or someone retoss it in the chat if you remember. But what have I learned that someone else needs right now? What is that one skill that that I know that someone else can benefit from? For instance, like a skill that I'm actively learning right now is truly thinking about how to raise capital. And now my thought is, how can I teach that, right? How can I teach that to my team? How can I teach that to people at large who are thinking about doing the same thing? And then another thing is like, how can I simplify whatever insight you've learned and share it? So it doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be massive. It could be something really small, but then figure out how to share it today. So if you're thinking, how can I go from mastery to sharing? Like, it seems so big and so complex. Just think about one thing that you've learned that someone else might need right now, and how do you share that with them? And so that's something to think about, right? Another thing I would say is like, choose one lesson, something small that you've learned recently, and teach it to someone this week. And I will encourage you, if you are on this call, use me as the example, use me as your multiplier. Teach me something new, put it in circle, send it to me on LinkedIn or DM or text me, but teach me something, or teach someone else, a friend, a family member, a colleague, a team member, someone at church, whatever it is, teach someone. So if you are thinking about something, right, if you're really good at something, put it in the chat. I want to learn. I'll volunteer to teach because I always want to learn. But then another thing that you can think is like, how can you make space for others, right? How do you intentionally make space for others to rise? I will say this, when you start thinking about leadership and legacy and impacting, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room anymore, right? You want to be in circles where you're continually learning and you're continually growing. And also, when you start thinking about being a multiplier, right, you are creating rooms for other people, but you need to create rooms where they can feel seen, they can feel heard, and then able to be empowered to go out and do that thing. So then all we're doing is just creating more multipliers. And that's really how we make impact, that the impact that lasts, a ripple effect that keeps going, sand or stone in an ocean. So who can ask yourself, like, who can I spotlight this week? Who's one person that I can pour into, that I can make feel seen, heard, empowered, encouraged, all the things? And something that maybe I'm also learning is, where can I let go of control so that someone else can grow, right? So think about that as a way for you to learn, as a way for you to start letting go of the reins as you think about impacting. It could also look like shouting someone out, right? Or mentoring someone. I'll tell you stories because I have stories. I was driving in an Uber yesterday, and I was on the phone with my mentor, and I didn't have AirPods. And so the phone was on speaker, and the Uber driver, I guess he was paying attention to the call. But at the end of the call, right, he said something really important. He said, I don't know who that person on the other side of the phone is, but he's like, that person is a great mentor. So who I am today is a result of truly strong mentorship, and I want to do that for others. So what does that look like if today you decided, like, I want to mentor someone, right? Invite someone to take the lead, help them grow into the person that you know that they're capable of becoming. So that's just another way to think about how this can be practical, so that when we come here on Mondays, that we actually take something out of this. And then the third thing I want to say is, start thinking about building environments that breathe growth. So who are you surrounding yourself with, right? And it might be you taking the step to create the space where growth happens. So then it might mean changing your circle of influence. It might mean changing your circle of the people around you, the people that you interact with, and it might actually also mean saying no. So maybe someone here is thinking, how can I take this to the next level? And that might mean that you maybe could host like a weekly check-in, something similar to Monday Momentum, and help your group of people, right? It could be you learning something and sharing a resource with your team, thinking about how they can grow. And it also could be something just as simple as asking growth-oriented questions. Where are you today? Where do you want to be? How are you growing in your life? What are you using to feed yourself to help others? And as usual, we talk about accountability a ton, but it's who's keeping you accountable? Who are you keeping accountable? How are you guys growing together? That's what it looks like when you start intentionally building environments that help breathe growth. So think about another thing that's simple, right? I'm tossing out a bunch of ideas for you to think, not to pick one, not to do all of them, but to pick one that you could really implement this week to help you grow. Because if we are not growing, we are dying. So pick one space. Maybe it's home, business, online community, circle. Come here. But where could you think about elevating someone else as you grow? So that's what it means, or that's how you have to start thinking when you start thinking about going from just growth, personal development, which is building yourself, to then using that as a catalyst to build other people. So I would say if you're sitting back and you're thinking, okay, so what am I going to do today? How can I use this, right? And I'm going to get back to the comments, the chat in a second, but I would say teach one thing that you've learned to someone else, right? That would be my challenge for you. What is something that you've learned? I would say maybe Chris, if Chris is on this call, maybe Chris can teach someone something that he's learned this week to help them grow better in building systems and automation. But that's how you start impacting, right? It's using the skills that you have to teach other people and to help them grow. It could also look like maybe elevating one person in your circle. So mentor someone, like I said, shout someone out, empower someone, help them grow at least, or help them see the light that you see in them to help them grow. And then we talked about creating a space. So if you want to build a space, or then think about how you can build a space, create a space to help others grow. And then this can even be, as you're thinking about how you can, this is something that I think somebody here should do, right? You can, if you are trying to grow on LinkedIn, right? You can maybe use a skill and teach a skill on LinkedIn, or shout someone out, or mentor someone, or highlight your mentor. But that could be a way that you can even like take this and then help a large number of people, because LinkedIn is one to many. So that's just something to think about. And if you do it right, just like tell me about it. I want to see how you're growing, how you're helping others grow. So again, I want to celebrate that ripple effect with you, because the more you start doing this, right, our goal and our heart, right, in the community and that expansive life is to grow, but also not grow by ourselves, and it's to help others grow. And that's why we're building this community. So if you do it, shout it out, shout someone else out, and let me know. I want to encourage you. I want to empower you. And I'm also going to take this challenge up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mentor someone this week. And that's going to be so as I'm asking you guys and keeping you guys accountable, I want you to keep me accountable. But my heart and my goal this week is to really pour into someone, and I'll share it with you next week. So as I leave you, again, this is just a quick 20-minute power hour, power 20 minutes. I want to leave you with something, right? Tom Peters once said, true leaders don't create followers, right? They create more leaders. And that's the beauty of leadership. And that's the beauty of legacy, right? It's to create more people who can then spread. And I think multiply is such a great word, but think about ripple, think about spreading, think about how this can grow to the next level, right? You have to realize this, that your growth is not the finish line. It should be the starting point to help someone else break through, to see someone's breakthrough. So I'll leave you with this, right? And then if you have questions, toss it in the comments. I just love to help give feedback, help you grow. If you're thinking about something, if there's something that you're struggling with, but I want you to start shifting from self-improvement to shared elevation. So then you take it from just you to your community at large. And when we talk about community, right, community is one more person, it's two more people. It doesn't have to be 100. When we hear community, we sometimes get intimidated. I don't have community, but it's really 1, 2, 3 people coming together. So I want you to take that word multiplier, think about it, think about what it means, but start today. That is all I got. But I was thinking about something this week, right? We always pick topics that we think will help people grow. But if there's something that you want to talk about, if there's a topic that you want to talk about that you think could help you but could help others, I encourage you to toss it in the chat. We'll do it next week. We'll do it as quickly as next week. Maybe not me, but someone else. But it's just something that we can definitely as a means to grow together. So the chat was blowing up. This is what fulfillment in life sounds like. I agree, right? I agree, because then it's not only about you anymore. This is beautiful in essence. Everyone has the potential to make an impact in others. Yeah, it doesn't seem like you don't have to be Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and the likes to make a difference, to make impact, right? It could start with you and like your siblings or your little sister who's looking up to you. That's what it could look like. We'll appreciate we have a mentor-mentee relationship. Okay, I will take you up on it. I said, even before I said this, I said that I will mentor someone. So I will reach out to you, Victor. Someone once told me you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So choose your people wisely. I 100%, I 1000% believe in this. Like, you know, my mom used to tell me, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. And it's truly those 5 people that will show you. They pour into you, like you pour into them. So surrounding myself with a community of people who can fuel each other's growth is goal. I love that. And yes, to being intentional about circle of influence. Vacuum doesn't exist anywhere. Everyone is a product of influence, and it's crucial to pay attention to that. Y'all are on fire today. What do you look for in a mentor? Oh, good. Is it qualifications, personality? Oh, this is a good question. Okay, let me. We have 2 minutes. Let me answer this. As someone who I look for in a mentor, is someone who is 5. So I have different types of mentors, right? I have someone who's 5 years, someone who's 10 years, someone is 20 years ahead of me, right? It's a glimpse or vision of the type of person that I want to become in certain areas of my life. So you necessarily don't have one mentor that embodies everything that you want to be, right? You might have someone, you know, if you're married, you might have a marriage, like a couple who's like your mentor that you guys look up to. If you want to build a business, if you want to become like entrepreneur extraordinaire, you might find someone who has done the thing that you've done, that you see where they are, and maybe they can help you. So it's not, and then it doesn't have to be gender specific, right? And it doesn't have to be personality specific. You can have mentors who are quiet. You can have a female mentor or male mentor. It doesn't really matter. It's just seeing yourself in them down the line. And like I said, right, it doesn't have to be 20 years your senior. You really could find someone who is 5 years ahead of you, but who is blazing the trail, and you're like, this is where I want to be. And you can even find a mentor at work, right? So it's like maybe someone who you're junior leadership and you want to get to senior leadership in that role, and that person can mentor you. So that's what it looks like. But as you think about mentoring someone, right, I want you to always be thinking about, how can I create value for that person, right? So like as a mentee, I'm always thinking like, how can I pour into my mentor? Because my mentor has truly fast tracked my growth, right? He's got me into rooms and circles that maybe I wouldn't have been able to get to by myself. So I'm always thinking like, what is it that I can give just to like enhance their life or something? So as you're thinking about that, I want you to be thinking about that. And don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and send an email and just say, hey, I've been following you. I see what you're doing. I'd love some time. And it doesn't have to be a huge commitment, but you have to do the work. You have to put in the work if you want to be a mentor. But we can talk more about this. I suspect this could be a topic for maybe our next Monday Momentum. But yes, okay, so I hope I answered that. If there are more questions to it, we can talk about that. I really want to help other people grow, and I've started very, very small. I've started on a very, very small scale, one more person. It just takes one person, and then it'll grow from there, right? It just, how much you put into it, how much value you create, that's the most important. So y'all came supercharged and excited today, and I love that. Um, okay, so we answered that question, but yes, I thought I closed it, but this was so great. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me in any form. I'm kind of all over the place on social, but also in Circle. So, but everyone have a wonderful rest of your Monday wherever you are, and we will touch base again next week. Bye, guys.